I was born in Portsmouth in England. Now I live in Finistère on the west coast of Brittany in France, and the town I live in is called Trégunc, and I love where I live. It's in the countryside, but right near the sea, and I love living by the sea. And yes, I really enjoy my job because I'm lucky enough that my job is my passion, which is sailing and racing around the world. And with my project Initiatives.fr, that is my job. So I have to be full-time training and preparing the boat to be able to do the performances I need to do in the competitions. The races are very different lengths. There isn't really an average. I guess probably the races we do the most often are transatlantic races, which can last from 10 days to 3 weeks time. But the Vendée Globe is a race which I love, which is the race around the world, and that can take almost 3 months time. And so for the training time, that changes. That's really different as well, depending on what kind of training I'm doing. So my training on the water, sailing, can be anything from a few hours at a time. So just going out in the morning and coming back in the afternoon. Or I can do longer training runs of up to, I guess, 10 days, 2 weeks, because sometimes I can use a transatlantic crossing or a delivery back after a race across an ocean as a long training session. So training is anything from a few hours up to 2 or 3 weeks long. Yes, unfortunately, I have had to give up a race or abandon a race. It happened to me in the Route du Rhum in 2018 when the hull of my boat delaminated, so it started to break, and so I had to abandon the race, give up the race, to take my boat back to safety very slowly, and I couldn't carry on in the direction of the race. In the last Vendée Globe, I also gave up the Vendée Globe. I abandoned the Vendée Globe because I had a collision with something in the water, which was so serious and the damage was so important that I had to stop to be able to fix the damage. And unfortunately, in the Vendée Globe, if you need outside assistance to fix anything, if you need anybody's help, or if you have to stop in a port, then you have to abandon the race because it's a non-stop race. But luckily in the Vendée Globe, I still managed to finish the race course, and I just finished outside of the overall rankings, but I still finished the course and the trip around the world. The Transat Jacques Vabre race was a great race, and it was a double-handed race. I sailed with Nicolas Lunven, a co-skipper, French co-skipper. We had a good race and we finished in 5th place, which was probably the best result that we could have expected, because Initiatives.fr is not one of the most recent or one of the most modern boats, and so with the boat we had, 5th place was the best result we could have ever achieved. When there's no wind, I still have to keep sailing, keep racing. I can't use the engine. We're not allowed to use the engine. It's outside of the rules. But it's very rare that there is really no wind, and often it's just a tiny little bit of wind, which means you have to be very, very careful trimming the sails, and just to try and harness every little zephyr, every little gust of wind, and so when there's no wind or little short, when the wind is really, really light, sometimes it can be very, very tiring because you can't leave the boat and the sails in one fixed position. You have to work really hard to keep the boat moving forwards. I think you're talking about the poteau noir, which is not directly translated into English. In English, it's called the Doldrums. So it's a bit of a difficult translation between English and French. And that's the area around the equator where the two weather systems meet. There's very low pressure, and there's lots of thunderstorms, and you can have a lot of calm winds and also some very, very strong winds associated with the thunderstorms, and it's a tricky place to sail through. So yeah, when it's really, really windy, it can be tricky and it can be scary because our boats are powerful. So it's important for us to practice in strong winds before the races, and often I sail with my shore team, with my technical team with me, in the strong winds, to learn how to manage my boat in the difficult conditions and how to do the maneuvers when it's very windy and when it's very rough. So it requires a lot of practice, and once I've practiced a lot, it's a lot less scary, and in some respects I quite enjoy the strong windy weather. All about Initiatives.fr and the project to help save kids' lives. So this is a project that myself and my sponsors support, a charity called Mécénat Chirurgie Cardiaque. Mécénat Chirurgie Cardiaque is a charity that helps young children that have been unlucky enough to be born with heart defects. And they're also unlucky because they live in countries where they can't have the operations that they need to survive in their own country because the hospitals are not well enough equipped. So the idea of Mécénat Chirurgie Cardiaque is that these kids who are pretty unlucky, if they had been born in France, then they would be able to have surgery, and which is free for French children, because we have a social security and health service in France. But in their country, they can't pay for that, and so the kids come to France, and they get looked after by a host family for the time that they need to have their operation and get better, get fit and healthy to be able to go back to their families in their own country. So it's a great charity, and most of the kids come from countries, poor countries that don't have the equipment in the hospitals in those countries to be able to do the operations they need. So it's mostly African countries, but not completely. So the idea is to help the kids that can't be helped in their own country. It depends on what race I'm doing and the fundraising that we do. But the best, I think, the most kids' lives that were saved was in the last Vendée Globe, where with the project, we managed to save 102 kids' lives during the Round the World race. And then the last race, the Transatlantic Fab, we saved 26 kids' lives just in the 3 weeks of the Transatlantic Fab. So Initiatives.fr is an amazing project which has I guess two different areas of where we need to raise money. One is to pay for the technical side of the project, which is to be able to pay for the boat and the sails and enter the races and all the technical upkeep on the boat. So that's the technical budget and the racing budget, to be able to, and also to be able to do well in the races, because if we do well, then everybody's happy and we raise more money to save kids' lives. And then there's another budget, because the way we raise money is not by asking the public to pay money to help raise money for the charity. It's actually my same sponsors who also give money, and they donate money to the charity in return for the fact that lots of people follow the project. So the more people come and click on follow on the social media on our Initiative.fr project, then the more money my sponsors will donate to the charity. So they're doubly generous, but it works really well for them because they got a lot of followers, a lot of people following the project, and obviously then those people would discover their brands and their company, and so that's what makes them happy as well. And it also makes their employees happy to be able to be involved in a project that's saving kids' lives. How much it costs, that really depends on what race I'm doing and the length of the race, the length of the project. And I'm lucky to have a project which is running through, I guess, 4-year cycles. The Vendée Globe, the round the world race, is every 4 years, and that's the race that's I guess the most expensive because we have to sail around the world to do that. And we're sailing these amazing high-tech powerful race boats, which are I guess that's what makes our projects expensive to run a bit, but a lot less expensive than Formula 1 cars if you're talking about the same technology. And so there's different levels and different values of boats depending on if it's the brand new latest generation boat or if you buy a second-hand boat. So to buy a boat to be able to do the Vendée Globe will cost anything from 500,000 euros all the way up to more than 6 million euros. So every project is very, very different, and every project will spend different money depending on what year and what race we're going to do. And then what do the sponsors get out of it? This is the best way to show you. One of the areas, so we support Mécénat Chirurgie Cardiaque, which is a charity, and you can see we're helping save kids' lives. So you can see the kid, this little kid, Ardasha, a little girl her life was saved by the project in 2016. And so my sponsors give a lot of the visibility on the boat to the charity, because that's the most important thing. We're trying to help the kids, but they also have their logos, and so that's one of the I guess the return they get for supporting this project. And you can see their logo as well on the sails, and also on all our clothes and all the everything that's related to the project, really. I don't get lonely. I guess it's important for the people who want to sail around the world or sail long races single-handed. It's important that you're not a person that suffers from being lonely or being alone on a boat. For me, it's part of the challenge is to be able to do everything myself, and it's part of the satisfaction at the finish when I know I've learned everything and I can manage my powerful boat all on my own. And there's a lot of techniques you have to learn to be able to do that, and I guess that's part of the satisfaction. And I do enjoy being with people, but I'm happy to be with people on land, and I have a great team that support me here in Initiatives.fr. And they're always, I know they're always there if I need to send them a message, and they send me a lot of support by WhatsApp, by emails to the boat, because we do have some connections. So yeah, you were asking about life on the boat, and yeah, when I'm racing a long race across the Atlantic or around the world, then obviously we have to carry on with daily life as well as making the boat go fast and trimming the sails. So yeah, we have to make meals and eat and sleep, get rest and wash and brush our teeth and do everything like we do at home. So there's a small a cooker, a bit like a camping cooker, to make hot water to be able to prepare freeze-dried meals, which are dehydrated meals. And there's no shower or toilet on the boat. There's so the bathroom is two buckets, one bucket for the toilet and one bucket is to wash with. And I usually wash with the seawater. When it's warm enough, I take a bucket of seawater and use the seawater to wash with, and some fresh water just to rinse with, because we have a limited supply of fresh water, as that is made with a machine called a water maker, which makes fresh water from seawater. And that uses a lot of energy, and also it makes the water very slowly, so we can't waste too much fresh water.